Welcome to my first ever tier maker list for Modern Warfare. In a natural goom style, it's going to be just shotguns. And as you can see down here, it's all the shotguns lined up with their individual ammo types. So we're going to go through one by one and rank these bad boys from F to the amazing S tier ones. Now, this is something you guys can do for yourself, and I highly encourage you guys to do it. And you know what? When you do, tag me on Twitter or something. Show that you've done it, make a video about it, because that's something I want to see. And if you do, I'll give you a little shout out, whether here on the channel or on Twitter or something like that, because I think it's a great way to stay engaged with you guys and as a community. It's really fun. A lot of people like these sort of lists, and I figured it was time with the addition of Dragon's Breath on the R90. It was a good time to do this list. So enough babbling, let's go ahead and get right into it with the Model 680. The Model 680 is my bread and butter gun, so where do you think I'm going to put this one? It's probably not going to be a big surprise to a lot of you, but it's going to go up to S tier. Yep, I think in its class, it is a top tier competitive shotgun. It has its own inconsistencies at times, and you'll notice this. Sometimes you'll get hit markers at maybe 5 feet away or something ridiculous. But if you're, aiming down sights quite a bit, which is what you have to do with this gun, it can be pretty devastating, and it's got some great range. It's got actually the best one-shot kill range in the shotgun class. The 725 used to be that shotgun, but I think it caught a lot of nerfs, and I think it's not quite as strong anymore, but it's still top tier. But the Model 680 is definitely a lot more forgiving, but also not too forgiving, because you do have to be aiming down sights, and it can be difficult to use, but you have at least 8 rounds in most cases, so you can kind of get away with that, and it's just an overall great shotgun. It's solid. It's definitely S tier in my opinion. Now, Dragon's Breath, on the other hand, that is a downgrade, and we're going to put it in B tier. I know a lot of people love 680 with Dragon's Breath, but I personally don't. It is fun and quirky. I do like to switch it up sometimes and use it, but in a lot of ways, it's just a straight downgrade from the Buckshot version. You don't really get consistent one-shot kills, in my opinion, and I'd much rather have just an instant one-shot kill like that rather than have to wait for that burn at range. And this is the only shotgun with Dragon's Breath that I really don't like using that much. It is fun, but it's just not the greatest. I think you have a little bit more of a forgiving hip fire, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather have a Buckshot version and just nail people from like 20 meters away. That's where the satisfying part comes into me. Now, Slugs. With Slugs, man, it pains me to do this, but it's going to go C tier. And the reason for that is because, yes, you do get a lot more range, but at that range where it makes a difference, you have to be hitting upper chest or head, which is really, really difficult to do, especially against a good player or someone who's jumping around, or even just someone who's moving. And I'm still feeling like I have to lead my shots with Slugs, which just really isn't the case anymore after that buff. Now, prior to that buff, it would have been down F tier. I mean, all the slug shotguns, except maybe the 725 with Slugs, would have been F tier. I mean, straight to F, straight to hell, the whole lot of you. But now they're a solid C tier, at least the 680 is. I really don't recommend them for competitive gameplay. You can make them work, they're still strong in a lot of ways, but you just have to be accurate. And why trade that off for just having the Buckshot and being a little bit more forgiving? So I think that it's just not as good as it should be, but that's just my opinion. Now, the 725. This is another controversial pick. Where do you think I'm going to put this one? Well, I'm going to have to go S tier. In its class, it is a solid shotgun. And yeah, you only have 2 shots, but man, that's all it really takes. And sometimes it's just 1. It's a strong shotgun. And when you have that sawed-off barrel on it, which takes the gun to another infuriating level up close, it's pretty gnarly. Now, the sawed-off barrel, I know it doesn't have that much range, but in its range, it's ridiculous. And it's so forgiving to me. And so I have to give it a top tier spot here. And a lot of people that play Search and Destroy, they absolutely despise this thing, and I understand why. Even I despise it. It's the only shotgun that gives me PTSD, and I just do not like it. It's just so infuriating to play against. I have flashbacks of how it was like in launch, where it was just nothing but the M4 and 725 in every lobby. That's just how I feel about it, but I still think, after all the nerfs, that it is a top tier solid shotgun. So a lot of people probably know that this is probably the most common shotgun you see, and for good reason. It's strong, the sawed-off barrel is infuriating, but enough about that. Now for Slugs, Slugs are great, but they're not S tier. And there's a few reasons for that. Now, slugs on the 725, this is what you want to use with the 725 when it comes to sniping. Slugs on the 725 are the way to go. This is really the shotgun to use if you want to use slugs. You can do some amazing sniping capabilities with it, and it's a lot of fun. And the reason it works so well is because it has that 25-meter stomach body multiplier, where as long as you're hitting stomach or up, you're going to get the kill at around 25 meters. And past that, you just have to hit chest, not just upper chest, but the whole chest area. So it's a lot more forgiving than the other ones. And then you can also put that sawed-off barrel on it, which is like a quick-scoping machine. So that is a lot of fun. And it's so much fun to snipe people with something so small like that. But it is very, very difficult to use. And I have noticed over time, I feel like since I haven't used it as much recently, I've gotten kind of bad with it. So it's just like I'll be missing a lot more shots. So it's not S tier, but it's a solid A tier because it is very unforgiving and you only get 2 shots, so you have to play smart with it. But it's definitely fun and it definitely works and puts in some great devastating damage to the enemies. So try it out if you haven't yet, which I'm surprised if you haven't tried it yet, but just letting you know, this is something to not be slept on. Next up, we have the Origin 12 with Buckshot. This is going to be a solid B tier. Now, it's got some great up-close potential. This thing is not to be slept on up close for sure. What keeps it from being A and S tier is that past that little short range, it completely falls off in terms of damage. It's just so weak. You need like 3 to 4 to 5 shots to kill, which, I mean, any good player is just going to kill you in that amount of time, maybe multiple times. It's just very unforgiving at range. And it's also very unforgiving if you're a rusher. It can be devastating for sure, but a lot of people who do well with this, sometimes they'll end up camping, and this is sort of the camper's shotgun of choice with the 725 sawed-off barrel. It's these two, and the reason for that is because the Origin 12 is very simple and easy to use, but I have found it's kind of difficult to master because against, like I said, good players, they'll know how to counter it, and you're just not going to be doing enough damage when you see someone because it's going to take at least 3 shots to kill. But if you're playing against somewhat naive players, you can do some work, and it's just something that shouldn't be slept on, but it's also not top tier in my opinion. Now for slugs on the Origin 12, that's probably going to be another B tier actually. Now slugs on the Origin 12 are neat because you have multiple shots at a quick fire rate, which is super nice, but you can't be really sniping with this thing. That's the only downside, is it has a lot of recoil, so you can't be sniping, and it just doesn't have that damage over range like the other slug shotguns do. This one is definitely going to be like 15 to 20 meters at most, but it can do some work surprisingly. If you're aiming down sights, you can one-tap this guy, one-tap that guy, one-tap, 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 and then reload. It's a lot of fun, and it works pretty well as long as you're hitting that chest area. So don't sleep on this one either. I actually really didn't like this one at first. It was probably going to be more D tier, but it's grown on me, and I actually kind of enjoy it now. So if you haven't tried this one, go ahead and give it a shot. Next up is another pretty controversial pick, I would say. The R90. Where do you think I'm going to put this one? Oh man. I'm going to have to give it D tier. If you know me, you know I have a weird history with this gun. I used to love it. It used to be like S tier, man. But now it's gone down. It's just not fun to use in my opinion. The Buckshot version just feels clunky. It looks clunky. Maybe that's just sort of a placebo effect from how it looks. But it feels clunky. The aim down sights time isn't really that great. The iron sights are kind of clunky and obstructive. I just don't like it. It just doesn't feel well anymore. And yeah, you can still do some work. And I have a feeling a lot of people are probably going to put it more in the B to A range. But for me, nah, just not cutting it. I do not like to use this gun with Buckshot at all. Now, here's the kicker. Dragon's Breath. And Dragon's Breath easily takes this up to an S tier. And in multiplayer specifically is an S tier. Now, the reason for that is because you get an amazing one-shot kill range with those 2 shots, and you can one-tap people up to like 9 meters with this thing. And in multiplayer, that's incredibly strong. So as long as you're playing smart, this thing is nasty. It is top tier if you're playing smart with it. And a lot of people still haven't caught on to it, but you're going to see a lot more of this thing, I promise you, especially in Warzone. People are hyping it up in Warzone. I don't think it's as good in Warzone, but in multiplayer, watch out for this thing. It also sends people's bodies flying, which is just hilarious in its own right. So if you haven't tried it, you need to, and go ahead and unlock it. The challenge isn't bugged anymore. I have noticed that the 2-shot range isn't as nice as the original Buckshot version, but it still does incredible work. And really the strength here is that one shot, oh my God, that one shot potential with this thing. I mean, do not sleep on it. Now for slugs, I'd say they're an upgrade to the initial base one, but not by much. Again, it's just too clunky. The iron sights are really obstructive, so you basically need another sight to use it well, at least in my opinion. And I just don't like slugs that much on it either, but you do get those 2 quick shots. I think it's on par with the 680, where they're still both kind of clunky, but the R90 specifically is more clunky when it comes to slugs. But you do get 2 quick shots, so it is better than I think the Buckshot version because of all that range, but still not an amazing shotgun in the least bit, I don't think. And last, we have the VLK Rogue, and the VLK Rogue with Buckshot, it's gonna be F tier. It's a straight up F tier. It is just, in this class, it does have some things going for it, but it's just, no, it's just poopy. It's just so bad in a lot of ways. It did get buffed like a couple times, but even then, the Buckshot version, it's just nothing special about it. It was really disappointing, actually, when I first played with it. Just nothing really special about it, except for that rate of fire and the mobility. But still, even then, it's just like, no, it's not going to cut it. It's just not strong enough. It just is so weak. And especially if you put that revolt barrel on, get ready for a bad time. I did do a live commentary with it and I made it work, but just get ready for a hard time with that thing. It is not fun. Now for Dragon's Breath, complete 180. It is going up to A tier. VLK Dragon's Breath is another top tier kind of shotgun. It completely buffs the gun in most ways, and it's very satisfying. It works well because of that rate of fire, so you can spam the hell out of it and see sparks flying all over the place. A lot of fun, but it also works super well. You can actually one-tap burn people at around 17 meters at the most possible range. So if you have that Tsar barrel on, as well as the Marauder suppressor, you can do some nasty work with this thing. You'll be a little bit slower, right? But you can one-tap people from pretty far. And yeah, if they do have EOD, it will be a little weird. Sometimes you notice it's a little inconsistent for whatever reason. But this thing, don't sleep on this one either. This is definitely like kind of best way to run the Rogue shotgun. But I don't think it's S tier like the R90 with Dragon's Breath. I think it's going to be a solid A tier. And then last, but certainly not least, we have the VLK Rogue with Slugs. And this is going to be a B tier shotgun. Slugs on the VLK Rogue are another great addition. They actually work a lot better than the other shotguns, except for the 725. I think I like it more than the Origin 12, but just by a little bit, not enough to make it A tier, because it's still really unforgiving and still really difficult to use. And the iron sights are a little weird, but this thing it's got the same range as the Model 680, but it's just faster and snappier, and it's a lot of fun. This is one that a lot of people have really, really enjoyed using. And I have a feeling a lot of people would probably put it A tier if they could, but for me, it's going to be a B tier. It's definitely one of the better slug shotguns, but at the end of the day, it still just doesn't cut it like the 725 with slugs. But yeah, 725, definitely the slug shotgun. VLK Rogue, also a good addition. Origin 12 with slugs. These three right here, don't sleep on them. And there you have it, guys. That is my list for the best and the worst shotguns in Modern Warfare multiplayer. And I really, really want to know what you guys think, because I have a feeling the R90 with Buckshot is probably going to be a little bit more mid-tier for a lot of people. I have a feeling maybe the Model 680 might be down here somewhere in the B tier or A tier, but for me, it's a top tier shotgun. Maybe I'm overhyping Dragon's Breath on the R90. I don't know. So leave a comment, but also try this list out for yourselves. I'll make a link for it in the description so you guys can try it out. And you know what? Make a video if you want. Make a post on Twitter and try it out and tag me. And I'll be sure to give you guys a little shout out, because this is really fun. It's a great way to stay engaged with you guys. And I enjoy stuff like this. I always watch these tier maker lists when it comes to Call of Duty. They're just so entertaining to me. So if you like the video, go ahead and give it a like. Be sure to subscribe if you like Call of Duty content or shotguns or gun guides, anything like that. And with all that being said and out of the way, I want to wish you all a happy day/night, and I will see you in the next video.